So this is what I'm currently knitting. I'm almost done. I just finished the sleeves the other night. This one I had to redo twice because the first time I did it, it was too tight. But now I'm a little worried because you can kind of tell that the yarn is peeling a little and it's been worn out a bit. But I'm hoping that once I block/wash this project, that will help out a bit. I've never blocked a project before, so we'll see. And I just need to finish the body part of the project, which should be easy because I'm just working in stockinette stitches. And yeah, I'm really excited. This is my first project where I've used a pattern. It was really hard because I got the wrong yarn weight. This yarn is, I believe, fingerling, and then the pattern calls for sports weighted yarn. So I had to be a little creative in working this pattern, and there's a lot of trial and errors, but I've tried it on. It looks really good, so I'm fairly confident that once this is finished, it will be a staple piece of mine. And I also really love the color. I think that turned out really well. Also, this is the Cascade Heritage yarn in the color red, 5607, if you're interested. It's really soft, I will say. Like, it's not itchy at all. So the plan today is to meet a few friends in an hour. We're just having an arts and craft day at a local park. And then I think if I have time afterwards, I plan to go to a new yarn shop that I found on Google Maps. It's about the same distance as the yarn shop that I typically go to, but I'm hoping this new yarn store has a few different yarn selections I can look through and also feel. I'm very big on how the yarns I buy feel because I want to feel comfortable wearing them. So I'm gonna go to that if possible after meeting my friends. So I'm gonna take you guys with me.
You know Reika, the Indian actress? Into her. That's really hot. Okay, there you go. Keep on going. Hey.
Okay, I'm back. So I didn't get any Sandnes Garn yarn. They didn't have the color I wanted, so I didn't want to rush myself in buying any yet. But they did have a sale going on, so I got 3 of these. They are the Louisa Harding Amy line. I think these yarns are discontinued, but these were $3 each, and I got 3 of these, so I thought it was a steal and went ahead and bought these. They only had 3 anyways. If there was one more, I would have gotten 4, but yeah, $3, 150 yards approximately, and it's 90% cotton, 10% cashmere. So it should be good for something warm. Like maybe it'll work for a mid sleeve. If not, I'll figure something out with this yarn. But I like the color. It was cheap and it felt really soft. We obviously devoured. Cheers! Cheers! So I'm back from Barnes& and Noble. I ended up not getting anything. I couldn't find any books that were on my wish list, but I think that's because they probably moved a good amount of books to their new location, or since the books that are on my wish list are quite popular, I imagine people have already bought them. So I left empty-handed, but I also typically like to borrow the books from the library first and read it and see if I like it. Then I buy a physical copy if I like it. So I think I really went to Barnes& and Noble to do some window book shopping. But I do have this East of Eden book that I finished, but I haven't read the introduction yet. And I think I want to finish the introduction and finally write my review on this book. But despite the introduction, I think this book was pretty good. It's I would describe it as like the classic of all classics. It's like the standard classic book of all time. Even though this is, I would say, the classic of all classics, it wasn't like my favorite book. I do have my respects and my appreciation for John Steinbeck and the many stories and themes and messages he put into this book, but I think this is just a personal factor, but I never found a lot of interest in American history and the American setting. So I think because of that, this wasn't my favorite, but I do really respect this book. And I do think it's a good read and perhaps an important read. So I finished reading the introduction of East of Eden. I'm trying something new, or like I'm experimenting with filming through photo booth. I've seen a few videos where people do an analysis through photo booth and then they screen share and move windows, which I've always thought was a cool concept. I don't think I'm ready to do a full video analysis of East of Eden, so I'm just gonna include a short, brief analysis in this vlog. I think the first thing I wanted to talk about was how East of Eden is a modern retelling of the Bible. It is a bit convenient that I started the Bible and finished the book of Genesis before starting East of Eden. So, because of that timeline, I was able to compare the East of Eden stories and characters against the stories and characters within the book of Genesis. So it was very obvious that, for example, Aaron and Cal were a reflection of Cain and Abel, or Abel and Cain. And although East of Eden is a modern retelling of the Bible, I really like how it questions certain aspects of the Bible. For example, with this quote, the quote says, "Look now, in all of history, men have been taught that killing of men is an evil thing not to be countenanced. Any man who kills must be destroyed because this is a great sin, maybe the worst sin we know. And then we take a soldier and put murder in his hands, and we say to him, use it well, use it wisely." So this idea brings up the question of if murder is the first sin that's introduced in the Bible, and it's so heavy, why is war not necessarily questioned, or the act of war is not necessarily questioned, even though these soldiers, America is perhaps, dare I say, rooted in Christianity and heavily worships God. So I really like how East of Eden brings into this question of if murder is the first sin, why do we not disgrace any forms of war? And why is our first action when we go to war is to go to the front lines, or at least for men to go to the front lines and protect their country rather than to stop war at all. And in the copy of East of Eden that I have, the introduction also talks about how it's a reflection of the Bible. I really like how the introduction doesn't really focus on the fact that it's a reflection, a direct reflection of the Bible, but more of a story that focuses on the Bible's theme of family, love, and being in charge of your own story. In the introduction, it says, "The point being made about human life is that parents and gods make a world in which children can spend a lifetime trying to decipher the expressions of their love. Whether one is really loved, this cannot be known. The only love one feels is the love one feels for someone else. This is the love declared in the last scene of East of Eden. Adam raises his hand, but it is really Cal who has gotten him to raise it and who gives the blessing. It is time for Cal to stop caring whether his father's love exists or is true, and time to admit that the pain he feels in being human is not because he is not loved, but because he loves." The second thing I wanted to talk about was Cathy. She is such a complex character, and I feel like my thoughts on Cathy are a bit of a hot take. So, first of all, I felt like Cathy's writing throughout the novel was inconsistent, but more of a fight between the author and the character and how the character's fate or story goes. Steinbeck's writing in general is very well written, and when I was reading East of Eden, I felt like the characters themselves were alive, like they were writing their own stories, and Cathy is of no exception. But I felt like her character was so complex, even Steinbeck didn't know what to do with Cathy's character. I think in the beginning he wanted Cathy just to be pure evil. But then as the story progresses, it seemed like Steinbeck wanted to make Cathy more human and started giving her more human tendencies rather than just straight, direct evil. For example, she kills Faye with little remorse so she could take ownership of the house, the business, but she doesn't kill Adam. And I'm not exactly sure if there's an exact reason why. I feel like if she has killed her mom and dad before, if she's killed Faye, why hasn't she killed Adam? Unless because Adam was so crucial of a character that he didn't want Adam to die early on in the story, but that's one example of why perhaps this could be used as evidence of Cathy being more human, knowing that Adam is the father of her kids, or that her kids needed a father, that she kept him alive. Even in the introduction of the book, they do bring this up. They say, in his most sophisticated paragraph on Cathy, Steinbeck advances a theory that she inhabits a unique and separate language. When I said Cathy was a monster, it seemed to me it was so. Now I have bent close with a glass over the small print of her and reread the footnotes, and I wonder if it is true, or if it was true. The trouble is that since we cannot know what she wanted, she will never know whether or not she got it. If rather than running towards something, she ran away from something, we can't know whether she escaped. Who knows, but that she tried to tell someone or everyone what she was like and could not, for lack of a common language. Her life may have not been her language, formal, developed, indecipherable. It is easy to say she was bad, but there is little meaning unless we know why. Also about Cathy, when I wanted to read discussions about her character, I found that most discussions were of how she's evil, these people hate her, but perhaps it's because I finished reading East of Eden in April and I'm now recording or processing my thoughts a few months later. But my lingering thoughts or feelings on Cathy are not of hatred, but I remember her as a misunderstood complex character. I think it's because it seemed like her character, though her actions were deeply rooted in her annoyance and frustration with people constantly projecting ideas onto her because of her appearance. And all the acts that she's committed were a rebellion against these projections. People saw her as innocent, but she didn't want to be assumed to be innocent, so she was evil. She committed evil acts. She also was a victim of projection from Adam. Adam simply liked the idea of her, or to be frank, the appearance of her. I compared Adam and Cathy's relationship to the one in The Great Gatsby. I forgot who the characters were. Let me check. It was the relationship between Jay and Daisy. Jay loved the idea of Daisy and not Daisy herself. He made up a whole character for Daisy, then learn about who Daisy really was. And I think Adam practically did the same thing for Cathy. So I think that's why I could kind of reason with some of Cathy's actions. Also, I know Cathy has committed murder, as I mentioned before, against her parents and other characters, but at the same time, you have Cyrus, Adam, and even Aaron, who, once they go to war, they technically commit murder as well, but we don't call them evil, or we don't hate these characters, or they're not commonly hated characters. So I wonder, this is just bringing up a question. You could disagree, but I wonder if if people's strong hatred towards Cathy is perhaps a little fueled because she's a woman. I feel like maybe if Cathy was male, it would be less that people hate this male character and perceive them as more of very complex and deep and full of flaws. You know? I feel like in general, in real life and in stories, women tend to be easily disliked if they're not likable, or if they have made a few mistakes or committed a few flaws. Not saying that Cathy has only committed a few mistakes, but I think if she was a male, she could have been perceived a little differently. Also, if you compare Cathy and Adam is the instigator of a lot of issues and conflicts. Cathy never wanted kids, but Adam always did. And then the reason why Aaron went to the army is because of all the lies he was fed. I don't think the reason why Aaron went to the army was because of Cathy and he couldn't accept Cathy. I think he couldn't accept that his father has been telling him lies his entire life, and that Aaron's life is not full of rainbows and sunshines. And also, I think the reason Aaron went to the army is because of Aaron himself. His personality of being stubborn, ignorant, is what led to his downfall. I don't think it had anything to do with Cal or Cathy, even though they perhaps added fuel to the fire. I really want to have more discussions on Cathy, more open discussions on Cathy. I've only read reviews about how people hate her, but I want to read people's review on their mixed feelings about her, because I have mixed feelings. I adore her as a complex character. I love reading about her, but also because she is so complex, I want to hear why she is evil or why she's just misunderstood. I also wanted to bring up the Netflix adaptation with Florence Pugh. This is an image from the East of Eden adaptation. It seems like Florence or Cathy will be the center or the main character of the adaptation. She'll be like the focus of the film, which I don't dislike because Cathy is so complex. I think you can spend all day talking about her character and her actions. But I do know there's like discourse, at least in the comments, about whether Cathy should or shouldn't be the main focus. One thing I am upset about is Adam and Charles. So apparently, this one is Charles, and this one is Adam. But I've always imagined Charles to have darker hair and Adam to be one with the lighter hair. Also, because Adam has like a mustache and beard, it gives more of a darker image that's reserved for Charles and not for Adam. The fact that it's reversed is like very, it's a choice. I'm a little upset about it. But I think Florence is perfect for Cathy. I've always imagined Cathy as doll-like, and Florence fits that image. She's probably the actress that looks the most like Cathy than any other actress that I know of. And Florence acts phenomenally, so I think she will do great in this adaptation. I do worry about it being a Netflix adaptation because every show and movie I watch from Netflix has this sort of artificial feel. So I hope it doesn't take away from how timeless East of Eden is as a book and story. Also, I wanted to bring up my favorite characters in East of Eden. I really like Lee and Tom. I was really positively surprised about Lee and how there's an Asian character in the novel and how well written he was at that. He wasn't just like a stereotypical Asian character. He wasn't just a token Asian character, but he was smart. He had a dream, and he really guided the main characters in East of Eden. Tom also, I really loved the story. If you have any recommendations on other books where there's characters like Tom who are the main character, please let me know. I really enjoyed reading about Tom's story, even though it was very short. Tom's entire character felt like a symbol of wasted potential. Not like he threw it all away, but more like he could have been so much more. But because of his mentality and the environment and people he grew up with, he failed to reach his full potential. And it's very sad, and when he felt so shaken up by Desi's fate, that also he's just like he just felt too deeply. And I think that's so beautiful yet so tragic. But to wrap it all up, I very much enjoyed reading East of Eden. I do recommend it to anyone who is interested in reading the book. It is a bit long, but I don't think there's anything in the book that I would cut out. The book is very well written and it flows with ease and with purpose. And yeah, this was my first book from Steinbeck, and I've also heard great things about his other works, so I might perhaps read those in the future as well. But let me know your thoughts on East of Eden. If you want to comment on any of my points or discuss about anything that I've missed, feel free to put it into the comment section. But thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you in my next book review. Bye!